So, like I said, this is the first live webinar we're having with multiple Aster clients. We've had several one-on-ones with some of you, and this is the first time we're having a live one. And we thought it was very important to have this now because over the last couple of weeks we've added several super powerful features to Aster, and we couldn't wait to share this with you guys, and also more importantly, learn from some of your experiences with Aster, some of the challenges or pains you're going through in your business. And so we can also see how Aster can help you alleviate some of those and, supercharge your business for growth and, profitability. So without wasting much time, I'm going to introduce myself and my colleague. So my name is Anif. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Aster, and on the call with me, I have Abdul Jalil, who is a CTO and co-founder. I also have Abib, who also works with us as a co-founder on the business as well. So we are here to support you guys, our beloved Aster users, and then we're also happy to take questions and learn from some of your experience on how we can improve, your interactions with Aster. So having said that, I'm going to do. So this is going to run, we expect this to last maybe 30 to 45 minutes. And what I'll try to do is, first of all, just reintroduce you to Aster as it is today, highlighting some of the new features we've added over the couple of weeks. And then once I do like an initial overview, I would open up the floor for you guys to chime in terms of questions, comments, or areas where you've had issues with, or areas where you think we should pay more attention to, and generally just get your feedback on how we can overall improve your experience and help you guys achieve your goals, right? So with that said, I'm going to switch over to my screen, and then I would kickstart the demo without wasting more time. So this is the current interface of Aster. It's quite different from what we started with. I think we've had several iterations, but this is where we currently are now. And in terms of this, if you look at the left-hand side of the pane, you'll see some of the main features within Aster. At the very top group is a group for the analytics, which is very important in terms of staying on top of your business. What is happening from a revenue standpoint? Who are the customers that are owing you? How much do you have outstanding? And other information like that. You can see that from the dashboard. It gives you at a glance view. And right on the dashboard, there are different things you can also see. Currently now, the view is showing for this illustrative company is current month, but you can also see last 3 months, you can see 1 year, and you can even see all time, right? You can also, filter by organization or even customers. So on the dashboard, you have this 360 view that lets you know at every given point in time how your business is doing. And again, the dashboard is also evolving as we add more capabilities, but also, expanding and improving the dashboard. But the dashboard is one of the places where, most of our power users on Aster spend, a lot of time on a daily basis, keeping tabs of how the business is doing. One of the most recent features we've loaded or added to Aster is the report section. Now, within the report section, whilst your dashboard gives you summary at a glance view, within the report section, you can get more detailed and granular information about your business. So if I was to click on the drop down here, you will see some of the reports we already have in Aster today, right? We have a revenue report where you can keep tabs of the total revenue your business has earned today, this month, last year, all time. You have the collections report as well. We'll delve into this subsequently. I'm just giving an overview first. We have the collections report where you see information on how much you've collected, because it's one thing for businesses to send out invoices. It's another thing for the clients to pay and settle those invoices. So on Aster, you can keep tabs of the invoices you've sent out, which is tracking your revenue, as well as the collections that you've received from your customers. So you have that collections report here that gives you all that detail. Then we also have your receivables report. Receivables report shows who are the people owing you. Now, for most of us, we issue invoices and send out. Not everybody pays immediately. And sometimes you even forget that somebody hasn't paid you. So With Aster, you never lose sight of any invoice because you have a receivables report that tells you which clients are still owing you, when have you sent out the invoice, and you can always resend an invoice or send a reminder. Now, one of the more recent features as well that we've added is expenses. And I think this one is quite new. Most people have not been using it as much. Most people use invoices a lot, but it's not enough for you to keep tabs of your invoices and revenue. It's also very important that you keep tabs of where the money is going to. And that's why we added expenses. So with expenses, now you can keep tabs of where your business is spending money. You can know, how much you're spending on electricity, on salaries, on this, on that. And it also gives you the information around, how you can improve, your performance regarding that. So we have expense, then we also have expense payment. And then for expense payment, what we're talking about there is you incur expenses and then you record that. But in terms of the settlement, it's not all our expenses that we pay immediately. A lot of times, we engage service providers either for a training or consulting or auditing, and then we don't pay them maybe until after they've completed the work or maybe 3 months later. So you can also keep tabs of the payments you make, right, on using the Aster expense payment feature. And then payables means what are some of those expenses that you've recorded but you haven't paid, so you're still owing the vendor. Now, we want to collect money, we want to earn, and then we also don't want to delay payments to our vendors unduly. So whilst we are trying to drive collection of our invoices, it's also important that we stay on top of the bills that we need to settle and make sure that we're not holding on to the cash for too long, and we settle as at when due. So you also keep tabs of who you're owing, right? Have you settled the LIRS, payee? Are you owing any vendor or other things related to that? So you have that. And then we also have the tax report. So since you're going to be doing your VAT, and then we're keeping tabs of that, and even withholding tax, we want to enable you have a very robust record of the taxes that you're collecting and paying. So it's easier for you to get clearance, it's easier for you to ensure compliance and ensure that there is no disruptions to your business as you build along. So we're also going to have like the taxes. And then finally on the report side is the financial statement. At the end of the day, we spend a lot of effort and resources, working in our company, doing things, but we also want to know at the end of the day, are we making profit? Are we making losses? What do we own? And even for regulatory purposes, you have to file for some of the businesses that are incorporated companies, you have to file your account. And having this financial statement embedded in Aster makes it super easy for your auditors to access the numbers and get that done. And more importantly, it makes it easy for you as the company owner and even for investors to see how your business is performing and enable them, if they need to make an investment or a loan, they have that, information and data to back whatever decisions they make. And for now, we've only added the income statement. In the coming months, we're going to add other features like the balance sheet, which shows the net position or net wealth of the company, and also cash flow statements and some other features. So that's on the report side, and that sums up the analytics within Aster as of today. So where you have the dashboard and you have several reports supporting that. Now, in terms of the core operations that businesses are doing on Aster and that we've enabled for businesses to do, one of the very basic things, and this is our most popular feature, which is invoices. And everybody will agree with me that businesses need money to survive. So it's not surprising that most businesses are very interested in sending out invoices, recording payments and whatnot. And it's very simple to issue invoices within Aster. All you have to do is click on the invoices tab, and then you can get started by selecting new invoice and following the prompt on that one, right? Then we also have the expenses. Which is also embedded in Aster. And within the expenses, if you've never used expenses before on Aster, the first thing you'll need to do is to come to configure, where you just need to enable categorization. And then we already have some inbuilt categories which you can leverage. And then if you decide that you want to update or edit some of them, you also have that. But with Aster, we want it to be easy for you to get started and get running without too many hoops and barriers for you to jump. So you have that history where you can then, for operating expenses, you can select and add any expense you want to do. So for example, if you've just engaged a lawyer for legal services, you can select the already created category, and as quickly as that, click on the add expense. And then, for example, if I'd engage a legal service, I can enter the amount here. If there's going to be VAT charge, I can check on that box for that, and I can say legal service, just to illustrate very quickly. There's room for you to include the vendor. So if it was, for example, White and Case law firm, you can include that. As simple as that. And then since it's a new vendor that is not already on the list, Aster already intelligently picks that this is a new firm, and then you can simply click on add. And then if you want to provide other information about the vendor, you can then choose, okay, this vendor is providing services. So I can search for services very quickly, and I can see legal services here. The other fields are not compulsory, but the better, if you have the information, you can also provide it. If you wanted to include the bank account, you can also provide that. And then once you simply save, you get back into the flow of your expense. If you have paid this amount or you've paid it already, then you can select paid. If it's still outstanding, then you leave the status as outstanding. And then the final step is you can then say, what kind of expense is this? And then we don't have any options for this, and I can just say legal service. And then add that, and we're good to go. So now I can save this. And just like that, I've created my first expense within Aster, and you can see that coming up. Now, if I decide that I want to make this payment, maybe several days later, I can record the payment here by just clicking on record payment, and then that goes in. And once you do this, this flows into your entire system. If you go into the reports on, for example, the financial statements report, you immediately see that would be updated. So just refresh this a second.
You might have to refresh the page for it to.
Yes.
There you go.
So once you refresh, you see that the operating expense is now captured, and then in real time, you know what your profit is, you know what your income is, and then you can add all the other aspects. One of the other things that we have here is the products and services. Now, a lot of businesses, we just want to get into Aster, boom, 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 and go, right? But what we've seen from experience working with several Aster users and businesses is that a very recommended thing to do is front-loading a list of your products and services into Aster, so that whenever you're issuing new invoices or recording stuff, you don't have to be creating new or is inconsistent. So a very good thing to do is to just come up into the product and services and then list all your products that you offer. And if it's services, if you're a service-only business, then create a service list all your service, so that on a day-to-day basis, if you need to issue an expense, you just go straight to the invoice and do that. But if you decide that you don't want to do that, or maybe your business is fastly evolving and new products are coming up every now and then, you can always just go into the invoice and then add it straight away without coming here. But usually we find it useful to have a list, because it also helps you stay grounded, knowing what services, and then if you need to promote some of the services that have not been moving fast enough, you can also see them quickly and remember to send a proposal to somebody or follow up. And then also is the clients. Keeping a healthy list of your clients cannot be overemphasized, because at the end of the day, it's the clients that provide the revenue to the business. So coming up on the client tab, you can add all your customers. For existing Aster users that already have a business, and you've been running your business for 5 years, 10 years, most times you already have those records somewhere. So you can actually import those data into Aster directly without having to add them one by one. And then to do that, you have a button by the right-hand side, top right side here, where you can simply click on import clients and then follow just a 3-step process to get this done. So you select a file, you can download our templates to upload the data you have. And then once you do that, configure the fields, preview, and then import. And that gets your clients in. And the same process can also be applied for products and services. You can import existing lists. So if you already have a list somewhere on a Google Sheet, on Excel or wherever, you can also extract that data. So it saves you time of having to input data one by one. And then the last thing I'll talk about before I open the floor for comments and questions is on the admin sheet. Right, it's usually recommended that once you set up an Aster account, you add your business logo. Now, once you add your business logo here on your invoices, instead of Aster showing as the logo of the company, your business logo then comes up on the invoice and other documents that will be coming up. And then on the admin, you can also add other staff members. Most times we find that it's the owners of the business that sets up the Aster, and then they might add other colleagues or finance representatives or other staff members. So currently you can add as many staff members as possible. We've opened that up for now, and then you can do that and run the business. So those are like key features within Aster. Right, I'm going to pause for a few seconds now of some minutes to allow you guys weigh in on the conversation, and if there's any area you want me to do a lot more demo on or deep dive into, I'm happy to do that. But I don't want to be the one just going on and on and on. I want to also hear from you guys. So Farouk, Baraka, Surah, if you guys have any questions, comments at this stage, I'll be happy to have them. Questions, comments?
Hello.
Okay, Abdulatif, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. Thank you so much. So I want to confirm something, that the email of the customers who were putting down for the invoice.
Did I use what?
Is it that the email? Can you hear me? I think I
can hear you, but it's breaking a bit.
Okay, let me take off my headphone.
Please go again.
So I was asking that email, the email of the customers that will be putting. I mean, is the email a primary thing that we must attach before we can generate the invoice? I wanted to confirm that.
Yes. So let me be sure I got your question. Are you saying the logo must be attached before you can generate an invoice? Was that the question?
Okay, I asked that the email of our customers, is it necessary that we attach it before we can generate the invoice out? So that was my question.
Oh, good question. Email of your customers is not required, right? It's not required. Yeah. But if you don't generate the invoice, it's not required. But if you don't generate if you don't add the email for the client, then what that means is that you can't send the invoice via email. Rather, what you have to do is that. So just to illustrate that question. So if I wanted to create a new invoice, now I can come to new invoice, and assuming I'm adding for a new customer that is not on my list, these are the existing customers. I can just choose add new, and then I'm creating this invoice for Abdulatif. So let me use your name, and then Abdulatif Tinubu, for example. Now I'm not going to add any email address here. Right, I'm not going to add any email address or phone number. I'm just going to save this client. Right, so once I do that, it allows me to do that. Then I can say bin fees for artwork or cost for artwork, bin cost for artwork. Okay, now I can select the product. I can select the product, and then now once you create the invoice, Abdulatif, you'll see that at the bottom of the screen, you have 3 options. The first option is to save draft, right? And you only use this option if you're not ready to finalize the invoice. Maybe you need to edit some information. Or the second option is you save and close. Now, save and close records the invoice as done. But because you don't have an email, you can't say save and send because there's no email address to send to. So in that case, wherever you're creating an invoice for a client that doesn't have an email or you've not added the email, whenever you do that, just do save and close instead of save and send. If you have an email, then you do save and send. And what happens immediately you do that is Aster is going to send your invoice to that client. And in this case, since I didn't add an email for you, I'll just do save and close. And then once I do that, you will see that now the invoice has been created for Abdulateef Tinubu straight up off the bat without having to go back to customers to add clients or add email. And if I was to go into my reports as well, so going to my report, you see that the revenue is already showing 2 million. Previously, I'm not sure you were paying attention to that, but we had about 1.0 million before. But now it's showing the income for you. And if I was to drill down, you can see under August, we now have 2 transactions. And this is how the report will look like. So this is the one I just created for you, Abdulateef. And you can see the amount. You also see the staff members. So for organizations where you have multiple people on Aster that can initiate transactions, you can also keep tabs of who is doing what, right? And you see the product name, you see the amount, and then it gives you that view. Also, just in a like manner, if you go into the statement as well, you also see what your profit is now and everything else. So I hope that answers your question, Abdulateef.
Yeah, it does. It does very well. Thank you. If I want to now send house
Okay.
to that my customer, how would I get the PDF without the?
Okay, good. If you want to send to that same customer, once you select the invoice, right? Once you select the invoice, the preview will come up in here. It's taking a minute. Let me refresh. So the invoice will come up here, and then you can just save it. So can you see the invoice on my screen?
I can.
Yeah, so once you click on this save button, it allows you save as PDF or JPEG or whatever you want to save it as. You can rename the invoice as well. Invoice for Latif. And then you can save that wherever you want. So I'm going to put this on my desktop just for illustration. And then once you save it, you can then attach and send. If you were doing this on your mobile phone, because Aster is also mobile friendly, then you can just send via WhatsApp through the flow there. And then once you click on the save button, you can say share on WhatsApp or on email or wherever else you want to send. But that's how you save the invoice.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. And then just to add another feature, which is quite powerful, particularly for like law firms where you have like retainers on a monthly or annual basis. Once you set up an invoice, you can always decide to make it a recurring invoice. So if you look at this button here, it says recurrent. So assuming this invoice that I just built, Latif, assuming it's a recurring invoice, I can come in here and say, set it to recur every month. Or if it's going to be quarterly or annually, you can set that. Now, since I've issued for August, I can set the start date to be from the next month and say September 1st. And then I can then say repeat every month or every 2 months or every quarter or whatever else. And if there's a specific end date, if this was a contract that will end at a given date, I can specify the end date there. And then if it's going to be due immediately, you bill it, you can say 1 day or same day and then save it. So now once you do this, we've created a recurring invoice, and on every anniversary of that particular setup, your client will be sent an invoice if there's an email address attached to it, which is why we always advise and recommend that you add the email address so that you don't delay in sending your invoices, because delaying in sending invoice means delay in cash flows, which is not what we want to do as business owners, So that is also a very useful feature that you can leverage. Any other questions from anybody else? Farouk, Baraka, Surura. Any other questions, comments?
Okay, so is it on this or maybe you're still moving on?
No, say that again.
Okay, I wanted to know that. Are you still continuing how this is the end of the class? What have some other questions?
No, please ask the other questions. I'm still going to do some additional details, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask so that at least is inclusive.
Okay. So I wanted to ask that, can we generate receipt via Aster?
No, that's a very good. Yeah, that's a good question. You can also generate receipts. So whenever you issue an invoice, once you record payment, right? Once you record payment, Aster automatically generates receipt. And to record payment, you can either come to this transactions tab to record your first payment. So now for this particular invoice that I did to you, assuming you've paid, I can record payment here and say you've paid the entire amount that was billed, which is 1.7. And then you can see this button that says send receipt. You can see the button that says send receipt. So once you choose this, you can actually then send receipt. Now, in the case where there is no email address, you have an opportunity to then add the email at this stage, right? But if not, then if you don't have that, then what you can do at this stage is just record the payment and then it will go. But if you have the email address, you just choose send receipt, and then automatically your client will get a receipt as well as a thank you email from you, as well as a thank you email. Does that answer your question? Abdulatif? Okay. I hope Latif is still with us, but I hope that that's clear to everyone. But any other questions before I continue? Any other question? All right. So if there are no questions, it looks like Abdulatif has dropped off actually. So I'm going to continue now just to show. So I think on the invoicing, in terms of the cooperations, with the invoicing, like we've seen, you can record invoices, you can record payment and send thank you receipts. And then if you have a client that, for example, you've already billed, but they haven't paid and it's over a week or whatever, you can resend an invoice by simply coming here and say send to client again, and then that would generate the same invoice and then resend to the client so that at least they are reminded of that bill, and then you can get that payment. So those are some of the useful things you can do on the invoicing. Whenever you issue invoices, you always see them stacked up on this pane, and you can always click to review the invoice. If you haven't recorded a payment that has been received, you can always come back to record. And if you want to know when was the payment made, there's always a record on the transaction. Now, there are some invoices you send out that the payment will not be in one swoop. It might be in tranches. So you can always record multiple payments for the same invoice if the client pays in bits and pieces. And then the record is always there to tell you when the payment was made. So those are some of the useful things one can do on the invoice. And if you see, we just added this feature here to configure your invoice. So for example, if you've not added your bank details, you can always add that from here. If there are other details you want to add on the invoice, you can choose add field and include, so for example, TIN or any other type of information. You can add that from here. Now let's move over to expenses, which is the second pillar within Aster as of today. There's a history page where you can see all the expenses for the different categories. You can add, if there's a category that you incur in your business that is not on the predefined list, you can add new categories. You can also keep tabs of your vendors, who are the people that you usually engage for services and have costs to pay. You can add them here. So we did an example earlier for legal fees, but one of the most important expense item for most businesses is salaries. So if I was to do salaries, I can click on the salaries bucket here. The advantage of clicking on this is you don't have to recreate certain things. It's already defined. But if what you want to do is not on the list, then you can just come to new expense off the bat and get that done. So if I was to add a new salary for this, I can come in here. You might decide to either add the salary as a total sum for the payroll for the month, right? Or you might decide to even add it on a per employee basis. Given some businesses might have several employees, it's usually recommended to just do for the payroll, and you have the data sitting elsewhere to support that. So for example, we can come in here and say, we're paying salary of 5 million. And then you can put a description here to say, for example, July payroll. And you can enter the dates. If the date you're recording is different from the date the expense was incurred, you can backdate it. So for example, if I wanted to backdate this for July, I can backdate to July and then, then continue. For this one, I'm going to leave the vendor blank, but you could also add the employee name or just use like, staff as a general bucket. This is already paid, so I'm going to say paid. And then final thing here is just to say the specific expense. So I'll just say salaries and then add that because we don't have any expense for this yet. So now once you do this, we can just save and then the amount comes up on the expense. Now, if I was to collapse this and I just click on this, you would have a view of all the expenses for that particular period. You can see the legal fees we did earlier, and then you can also see the payroll we just added. So with expenses, you can use that. Now for expenses, there are different buckets. We have operating expense, which are like the core expenses, your salaries, rent, and co. But there are some other expenses that might be non-operating. For example, if you work in a regulated industry, you might have penalties or fines. You might have interest expenses, which are like financial in nature, not operating. And then some other things that you might have there, taxes. And then capital expense, like when you buy a new building or you buy computers, long-term assets as well. You can also record those under capital expenses, and you have that. So these are some of the things you can do on expenses. Again, I'll pause for a few seconds to see if there are any questions. And Ablatif, I can see you're back. I hope I answered your question before you dropped off. I hope you got my comments on that. But any question at this stage? Anybody? Sorry, Ablatif, say that again.
Yes, I nearly got it, but not fully before I was out.
Okay,
Okay,
before
but
you
it's fine.
dropped
So
off.
I'll check it.
Okay, so I'll just recap very quickly for you. So the point I was raising is that you can send receipts. Your question was around receipt. So when you issue invoices, under the invoice tab, all your issued invoices will be on a list here. You will always see them. And then if there's any invoice you want to issue a receipt for, you can click on the invoice. And then once you click on the invoice, you can either go to the transaction tab here to record a transaction, because for you to send an invoice, what that means is that payment has been made. You've received payment. Rather, for you to send a receipt, it means that payments has been made. So the first step in that process is to record payment if you haven't done that already. So once you record payment, so for example, if I say that this amount has been partially paid, I've received 500K, I can do this. And then in this case, I don't have any email address for this client. So I can't send an invoice. I can't send a receipt to it, but I can still record the payment. So assuming I had an email with the send receipt check, I can just say save, and then it records the payment and also sends out a receipt via email to the client. But in this case, since we don't have email address, we will deselect this and then simply save it. And once we do that, you'll see that the payment has been recorded successfully, and we can see that the outstanding amount is no longer 1 million, is now a balance of 500. And then whenever we receive that payment, we can come back here and add another record another transaction to do that. But I think the key thing is for the receipt, unlike the invoices where you can still come back and save a PDF or whatever, the receipt automatically sends, right? So if you don't have an email address, then you won't be able to send a receipt to the client, right? I hope that answers the question, Abdulatif.
Yes, very well. Very well.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. I think those are the main things I wanted to cover. The other thing is that now with the reports, which is a premium feature in Aster, you can now go in to review your transactions in a very nice manner. and then you can filter. So for example, this is showing all the transactions. We've sent out 4 invoices, total revenue is this. If we wanted to see, maybe by client or by product or by date, you can filter with those buttons, or you can simply just scroll down to see, okay, how much of your invoice is settled, what is paid, what is unpaid. You can see invoices around who are the clients that you've billed and how much, right? This is by the count. You can also see revenue by client. You can see a chart here for products. So we're selling the most. And we can see that artwork 001 in this company is like the highest selling product or service. And then you can, see some of these other visuals. Now, for some of these things, for those that are like pro users, you can decide to even see it as a table or change the kind of chart instead of a pie chart. Maybe you want to see it as a line chart. You have that flexibility to visualize your data in any manner that you deem fit, right? You can also see your receivables. Now, this is one of my favorite reports to look at, because at every point in time, I want to make sure that nobody's owing me. And if anybody's owing me for too long, I want to be able to quickly, send a reminder to say, and if you decide, okay, this person is showing here, but you've already received payment, right from the report, you can click on this button and then record payment quickly so that you're not misstating the report. And then we can see that for this, we have just 2 people that are owing us. And then we can either decide, okay, this invoice has been outstanding for too long. Let's send another invoice or send a whatever. And then once you do that, you can send it and it's gone. So it's important that as you add your transactions, as you use Aster, you also review the reports to stay on top of what's happening and to be able to, course correct where necessary in terms of strategy, in terms of how you want to grow your business, and in terms of just, managing your business on a day-to-day. So those are the main points I have. I don't know if my co-founders have anything to add, Jalil, Abib. If you guys have anything to add to this, that'll be welcome. Or if you guys have any additional questions or something you want me to touch on, I'll be happy to, jump into that as well. Otherwise, I would, open up the floor for comments from my colleagues, Abib and Jalil.
Yeah, thanks, Hanif, for the presentation. I think you've covered some of the powerful features here. I think one of the features that I personally like as well is the filter. You touched on this a bit, for the filters for the different reports. So all these different reports that we have, the revenue reports, the collections, receivables, they all have inbuilt filters that you can use, which is pretty powerful, I think, for a business, so that you can see specifically, you can drill down into the specifics of who is owing you money, who like what expenses are draining your money the most, stuff like that. And even for the financial statements as well, you can see a pretty interesting breakdown. So not just yearly, right, which is the standard way you would prepare a financial statement, but you can sort of specify, okay, when is my end of year? Do I want this financial statement to be monthly, quarterly? So if you can sort of do that with the filters as well. So I think those are some of the like really powerful features there with these reports as well. So yeah, you can check them out, try them out, see how you like them.
Yeah, and more importantly, share your feedback with us, share your experience. Thanks for those additions, Jalil. And then more importantly, we really, we're still early in building this out. We've added several powerful features, like I'm sure you would agree, but there's still a lot more to come. And as we build, we really want to get your feedback, your insights, and your comments around what your experience is like and what are some of these other things you would like to see. And, so that at least, we continue to give you tools and solutions that meets your requirements. So I think that's about it, really. There's some folks here that I haven't heard from. I hope you had a useful session. And I think we'll be in contact with you as usual with, emails and additional details around some of the cool things that we're building and how you can leverage them to, empower your business and drive growth. Latif, did you want to come in there?
Oh yeah, just little. So yeah, I've been talking for a while. I think the reason is because 2 years back, 2021, I think I should be early user of Aster. You know, that was when I found my furniture business, and Habib introduced it to me then. You know, so I started using Aster at that time. But I'm saying this because I got distracted by some other one I later, saw virtually. So and I've always tried to call myself back, but I think maybe because those ones probably, and I use app in that. So I want to employ, I employ the management that if we can get app that can be more future friendly for us. So I will mostly much appreciate that. So in the long run, so I think I really want to have this. And the second thing I would love to also say is that our content, our what we are putting on Hasta, are they well protected? Yes. I would want that to be answered as well. And the last thing is that can we get video of this? Well, personally, I would love to watch it again. The record and how easily I can navigate through the whole process. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Latif, for those, and I think those are very important questions. So in terms of the recording, definitely you get that. We're going to send this across to all Asta users, most likely in coming days via the email. And then regarding the security, I'll let my CTO Jalil respond to that, so at least he can give you all the assurances. But you can be rest assured that we don't take security and privacy lightly. But I'll let Jalil provide more context on that. Jalil.
Yeah, definitely security is one of the key things that we talk about regularly and build into the system. Without going into too much technical detail, we use like standard like top level encryption. All your data is encrypted, both the data that is like stored and the data that you're sending over the network. They are both encrypted. There's also restrictions around who can actually access your data. So it's only on a need to access basis, right? So people you invite to your organization, like people you invite to your business through Aster are the only ones that can actually access your data. The other thing there is, I mean, some of the features that we're also building right now, one of them is like role management. So even within the staff members that you've added to your business, you will eventually be able to say, okay, I have specific roles where only specific parts of the app can someone access, even though they're still on my team. So even client end security stuff is stuff like that we also think about. Yeah, and then there's just general safeguards to ensure that your data is protected against modification as well. So your data is like getting backed up, and so that there's also no loss of data, which is like also kind of security, but also protecting your information in that sense. So yeah, you can be sure that your data is safe with us.
All right, thanks for that, Jerry. All right, so I think our time is well spent, and thanks a lot for the feedback, comments that we've gotten, and the suggestions as well. We've heard you, we've taken notes of those, and we'll try as much as possible to leverage that as we continue to build out Aster. So Habib, I don't know if you have any final comments or feedback for the house before we draw the curtain on today's session.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Annie, for the presentation. It was thorough and clear. I just want to talk about dashboard too, just high level. So the dashboard is also an easy place for you to see quick tiles that can be used to just have a sense of total amount of invoices that have been sent. So you can also play around with the dashboard sometimes, as well as the report. In terms of next steps, would send this video to you so you can catch up again and watch and see how Aster actually works. We also encourage you to share the videos with your friends other business owners that you know that start benefits, so they can watch the video, register, and then come on board to join in using this valuable tool. So thanks a lot for joining, and we look forward to seeing you in other events we'll have, and we'd like to work with you together for a long period.
Alrighty, thanks a lot, everyone. Jerry, do you want to say something?
Thanks, everyone. I just wanted to very quickly address Abdulatif's concern about the mobile app. So you mentioned that you started using Aster like a long time ago, and I think at that time the app wasn't super mobile friendly. So I would also ask you to just try it out again on your mobile phone. Even though we don't have an app yet, it's something that we're considering building that sometime in future. But for now, you can access it on your mobile phone, and it's a lot more mobile friendly than you probably remember. So you can just give it another try and see if you're able to use it on your phone as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
And let us know how that goes. Abdulatif, you can always send us an email or respond to some of the newsletters we send. I'll actually be looking forward to know what your experience is on the mobile, because I use the mobile web as well, and it's quite seamless. So you should try that out.
Thank you. I'll do that by the grace of God.
All right. So have a nice day, everyone. Bye.